Alrighty, folks. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Finance Committee on Monday, September 8th at 7 p.m. I'm going to read the following disclosure for everyone. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, and the June 30th, 2027 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune into the meeting may do so via Zoom with the address that is listed at the top of the agenda. So now we have done our call to order. We will move on to item B, approval of meeting minutes from July 21st. Just for folks who may be tuning in tonight from the public, July 21st was our only meeting during the summer. We did not have any other meetings after that point in time. So this is now our first meeting of the fall. So, did everybody have a chance to read the meeting minutes? Any questions, concerns, comments, or any adjustments that need to be made?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, seeing that, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I hear a motion to approve from Mr. Lightford. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Higgins. Josh, if you could take the roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Rig, you're on mute.
Aye. Matt,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. Now we are moving on to item C, public comment. I would ask that if there are any members of the public this evening, please state your name and your address clearly for the record so that we may have it as part of our meeting minutes and also for the public record. Is there anybody from the public who would wish to speak this evening? Alrighty, hearing none, we will move on to item D, old business. We do not have any old business. So now we can move on to item E, new business. And we'll go through them in order unless members wish to take any of them out of order this evening. So that being said, we will move on to new business item A, order OFY 26-014, transfer order CPC First Parish Unitarian Church window project. I'm just going to read a little bit of the description here. Let's see. So, in accordance with Section 6.4 of the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter, the vote to appropriate $38,000 from Historic Preservation Reserve, account number 32400, for the restoration of the First Church windows. There were some attachments to this document, including the recommendation for First Parish windows, and then CPA application for the same from the First Parish Unitarian Church. So I'm hoping that everyone had a chance to read this, and if they have any questions, before we move to those, I do see that our town manager, Mr. Casanova Davis, is here, and I do know that we have Ms. Perez here as well, so we will leave it to them to give us a bit of a background on this project.
Hi, MJ. Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to really add too much background. I think it was pretty self-explanatory. This is regarding windows at the church. I think the only thing, well, the other additional bit of information I would highlight that you didn't, MJ, is that this is about 48% of the project. The remaining amount will be covered by the church as part of their funding of the project. That's all I really have to add. Thank you, MJ.
Oh, thank you for that description, Mr. Casanova Davis. I do have one question. And I may need some of my memory refreshed on it, but I feel like something for a church came up several years ago. Is this the same church?
I believe it's a different church. There was another project of a church. I don't know the details of it, but I do remember there was a conversation about there being another church project.
Yep,
Yeah.
this is actually a different church.
Yeah, exactly. I was confident it was a different church, but there was another church project.
So I guess my follow-up question then is since I don't recall how the last time it worked out with that other church, this doesn't conflict with anything that would be between the constitutional separation of church and state, does it?
No, CPC, CPA funds can be utilized for churches. We've done it plenty of times. And I know that the CPC group has reached out to the CPA community sort of to understand that this is an eligible expense, but there is no issue with that. Good question.
Thank you. Did any other members have any questions?
I do. Is it normal for for us to invest in private property or someone else's property and to do upgrades to that? And how does it really qualify under the CP requester? I know they've got $40 million or $4 million to go spend, but I thought that was more to buy land or open property or whatever, not invest in private buildings.
Yeah, another good question. So real briefly, if you look at CPC funds, they are categorized in different buckets of funds. Let's put it that way. So you have open space, you have historic, and you have community housing. Community housing, people sometimes say affordable housing, but it's known as community housing. And then there's undesignated funds. Typically, you see these sort of expenditures with churches in the historic preservation, and this is where that bucket of funds is. And if you actually look in the application from the Community Preservation Committee, you'll notice that there'll be town, committee, or department, but then there's also another option for, I think it says public charity or nonprofit, profit or private. So this is not anything sort of unique to Bridgewater. There's many communities that do this. Every community that I've worked at, we've had some projects that would go to, churches or nonprofits, as long as it's an eligible expense.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Higgins. Did anybody else have any other questions or comments?
I just have one question, MJ.
Sure thing, Rick.
I'm just curious to know, will this project go through a bidding? Or because it kind of falls under the scope of, or outside of the scope of sort of what we do publicly, and it's sort of like operating as a private entity, will there be a bidding process?
Yeah, another good question. So it's not going to go under typical Chapter 30B sort of procurement because it's not going to be the town procuring these services. I think in the packet of information, the CPC, when I glanced at it, they already have a contractor for it. So it's an independent contractor. I think it's called Blackburn Building. I can see right here, Blackburn Building Conservation. And they're going to be maintaining that project themselves. They'll have their own financial oversight of the project that they'll obviously have to report back to the CPC.
And I just have a follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Sure thing.
What protections are available in terms of, the town? And I realize there's some separation, this is allowed, I totally understand that. But let's just say worst case scenario, there's some issues with the work that the contractor puts forth. Is there any protection, that protects the town?
I'm sort of understanding your question. I guess I would say that there is, CPC is very meticulous about their funding. I'm sure you all are aware about it. They require detailed reporting of their expenditures. If there is an issue with the project, I think that one, if it leads to an increased cost, then they would have to communicate that with the CPC, and they may or may not determine whether to fund that project. I think I understand your question, but it's a little bit difficult for me to answer and saying, there's a lot of unknowns there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to best to respond to your question, Rick.
No, I understood. I was trying to figure out a way to frame the question, and I appreciate it. You're giving the crack. I guess just for my own clarity, and please correct me if I'm wrong. The request is to move funds, public funds that CPT manages from whatever bucket that the fund exists. And yes, there's no conflict from state to church in that regard. And there's no conflict, to John's question. I guess my question was more, if this is still public funds, sort of because we're moving public funds from one entity to support a project that isn't government project, that's where I'm just curious to know if there was any form of protection. That's all.
Wouldn't classify as any formal protection. I would say that, one, if a project is determined by the CPC to be an eligible expense, it has definitely gone through a sort of a detailed project analysis where the expenditures, one, have been approved. They are eligible expenses. The petitioner has appeared before the CPC. They laid out their project plan for this, and they have to provide detailed reporting. Typically, we haven't seen any sort of malfeasance or difficulties with those projects. But there's always opportunity, one, with the collaboration of the petitioner as well as CPC. If there's issues that emerge, then we would take a look at that. But so far there haven't been. I understand your question, Rick. I guess I don't have a perfect response for you at the moment. I might be able to follow up with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing he might have been trying to ask about, just hearing the conversation, I think the concern is that if something, say, goes wrong with the project or something breaks, I suspect that the project would have some type of punch list towards the end, because if there is any type of issue with the work done where the town has placed funds in the hands of this entity to have the work done and something goes wrong, most contractors typically have some type of liability insurance that would cover that. If I recall, when the Academy building was being done, if something was wrong with something on site, for instance, the walkway outside of the Academy building, the handicapped access ramp, we had problems with the ramp subsiding from the sidewalk itself. And we let the contractor know, and they had to honor it. It couldn't be done at an additional cost to the town. They had to honor their work and craftsmanship, and it was covered under a limited warranty as part of that part of the project. I think that's possibly what he was looking for, Justin, but I won't speak to any further. But yes, if there's a project done, I would suspect there would be some sort of level of liability insurance on the part of the contractor doing the work, and to be able to provide a product that is not only complete, but also not just safe, but also done the way it should be done.
MJ, I would agree with that. That's a typical process. I think a good example, one that I've seen as I've come on, is the Stiles and Hart project, for example, CPC is working on. For our grant purposes, it's looked like it's closed out, but there are some things that CPC is looking to get addressed. So we go back to the contractor, we collaborate in that manner. I think that would be a similar thing in terms of, if I'm understanding Rick's question, if there was an issue with this project, there will be that same due diligence. So I think, MJ, you've explained that well.
Thank you both.
Are there any other members that have any questions or concerns?
So, Madam Chair, just one question, just interested in people's feedback on it.
Sure,
Looking at the quote, it looks like the church is going to be contracting with the restoration or construction company. I think if there was any sort of shoddy work or any sort of warranty issue with the services that are provided, it would be the church's sort of like lane of action, or for recourse. So we'd provide the funds, but if the church is contracting with this company, I think they would deal with any issues that come from its work itself. And then I did just want to comment. I reviewed the SJC's 3-part test. I mean, I think this is an appropriate expenditure of funds. There's a public interest here. It's a historic building in our downtown. This amount of aid, I don't think is inappropriate. And John had mentioned the amount of money that the CPC has to expend over the course of a year. This is relatively modest, in comparison to that. I appreciate the fact that the rest of the cost of this project will be borne by the church. It is also being, funded by other contributions. So I really don't see any kind of improper entanglement here, plus the fact that, we've supported, projects in religious buildings before. So interested in, anyone's thoughts in terms of the liability, and who's contracting for what. But, I do think that this is a worthwhile expenditure.
Thank you, Mr. Lyford. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I just want to say that I agree wholeheartedly. I wanted the whole time just to say that the graveyard there alone is a historical landmark that we should all go enjoy. If you haven't seen it before, it's a hoot. But that whole area is so, I mean, I entirely agree that it is something we should, as a historical preservation project, put those funds towards. So agreed.
Thank you, Mrs. Basowitz. If there are no other comments or concerns or questions, I would entertain a motion.
So made.
Made by Dr. Bennett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Knoll. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
John.
I'd like to vote no on this one. How do I do that?
You just say nay.
Just a nay then, okay.
Okay, thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you, everyone. We will move on to item B. Order OFY 26-018, acceptance of a donation from the Howard Foundation. So I'm just going to go scroll down to that here. All right, let's see. It's a few pages here.
So you want me to give a brief description while you're getting your information?
Yes, actually, I was going to ask for that. I'm just going to try to zoom in and see if I can
Yeah.
read it here too.
No worries. This is an annual donation that the town has received from this group. It's given to the COA annually. The one requirement that they request as part of this donation is that this $9,000 needs to be prioritized for Bridgewater residents. COA can use these funds in whatever manner they deem appropriate. They've typically used it on programming, for seniors, various activities. The one thing that I would highlight too is, if you probably looked in the packet, there is a letter from the group saying, the previous year we didn't provide a detailed expense report. I think that was just lost in the process of, we had a new COA director. I've spoken with Courtney. We're on top of that, and we will make sure we provide that detailed report moving forward. So this is a great donation, and we're very appreciative of it.
Thank you, Mr. Casanovides. I was actually going to ask that exact question, seeing that there wasn't some form of reporting from the previous year. That was going to be actually my first concern that I was going to raise, so I appreciate that. So the Howard Foundation is actually supposed to be trustees of the Home for Aged Men in the city of Brockton. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's also through the Howard House then, right?
Yes.
Because I know they do senior center things for other towns and other towns, municipalities in the county. I used to work in the town of Avon, so we used to have invoices from Howard House for various programs there. It's good to see that they're doing the gift to the town this year for our services at the senior center. So it is nice to see that they are continuing that. If any members have any questions or concerns, please feel free to share them right now. Okay.
Cannot imagine having any concerns about a contribution coming in.
Yes, we are always appreciative of any type of gift or resource that we receive from outside sources, and we are always appreciative and always welcome them. They are always very helpful to the community, especially our more life experienced residents in town. They are some of our greatest resources in the community, and it's good to see programs and services that are there for them, especially during this period of their lives. So
Absolutely.
if there are no other questions or concerns, I would welcome a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
made by Mr. Knowles, seconded by Dr. Bennett. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, excellent. We are now moving on to the next item, Order OFY 26-019, acceptance of a donation to Parks and Recreation Department from Ron Enos. Mr. Enos has donated the funds for the purchase of a memorial bench at Styles and Hart. The bench will be installed with a memorial plaque in memory of a loved one. And just for a little bit of information, I believe this was on the town council agenda last Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know there were some questions, and I can certainly answer some of them. I know that they wanted to possibly install a bench that would be of the same format and type as other benches that are on the site, and I believe the amount of 867.81 would go away to obtain said bench with the same style. Is that correct, Justin?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
The one, yeah, you've got it point on. I think I would just clarify that initially, I believe this gentleman wanted to purchase the bench. We wanted to collaborate and make sure these benches were uniform. So this amount will allow for the installation of the bench, and it'll be similar to the other benches that the CPC in that project have put in place there. So just good, well coordinated.
And a follow-up question on this. So since there are other benches there, I know there was some conversation amongst members of the council last week. Is there possibility of making a memorial bench program or a memorial brick program around these benches in the parkland just to, I guess, I know other parks in other towns and cities have these types of benches set up, or they have areas where there are memorial bricks. Is that something that might be a possibility coming down the line at some point, or is this just a one-time?
It's definitely a possibility. As you are probably aware, we don't have a policy in place at the moment. It's sort of a one-offs. I think for us, we would like to establish something that's a little more uniform so people understand that process coming here. So that's probably something that we'll look to explore to implement moving forward.
Okay. Did any other members have any questions? Alrighty. Well, we do appreciate again another gift, and we certainly appreciate Mr. Enos's efforts to preserve the memory of a family member. That is certainly one of the nicest things that a person can do to remember a family member, especially if this is a place where they either frequented or enjoyed or contributed to the upkeep and maintenance thereof. I know that as one thing that, helps somebody's memory continue to be a blessing, and I think that's probably a really nice thing to do. So if there aren't any other further questions or concerns, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Knoll. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Seconded by Dr. Bennett. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item. Order OFY 26-020, acceptance of gift from Bridgewater State University. Explanation: Bridgewater State University's annual donation to public safety is equally divided to police, fire, highway for ongoing community partnership. And it looks like for this year, it is an amount of $55,000.00. This is something that the university has done for the town in years past. I know there have been questions and concerns in the past by members of the council as to the amount. I do certainly recall one counselor making a comment about it back in 2011. Those days are long gone, but the partnership with the university continues to be robust, and this is a another gift to us from our friends over at Bridgewater State University. So with that, I will hand it over to the town manager for further elaboration.
Yeah, MJ is absolutely correct. This is a gift, as this members of this group most likely are aware. An entity like a school is not required to pay taxes on their property. Sometimes communities look for what they call pilot programs or payment in lieu of taxes. Once again, not required to make those contributions, but you can ask. BSU has typically on an annual basis provided this $55,000 since Mr. Fred Clark has become president. They weren't doing it previously. I believe it's amounted to $591,000 over that span of years, which has been equally divided for fire, police, and DPW services. So it goes to, for example, good example is recently We acquired a new pumper or apparatus for the fire. It needs to be outfitted with equipment. We're utilizing some of those funds that we received from the grant to do that. So not utilizing town funds for that. So it's definitely something we're appreciative. And also this year, when I did meet with Mr. Clark, I asked him to provide additional, if they could provide some additional funding for the town. He did commit at the council last Tuesday, I believe we had that meeting. Time's flying when you're having fun, MJ. They committed to a 10% increase for next year. So we're very appreciative of that.
I do have a follow-up question. I know there's been some discussion. I was actually reading, I think the most recent copy of the MMA's is Beacon. They're looking to possibly do some further discussions at the state level about how pilot monies are allocated to towns and cities, correct?
Yes, they are. And they're also looking at yes, you're absolutely right. They're looking at particularly the funding formula that they do for state resources in towns that have, state buildings and different things like that, prisons, schools, etc. So they are looking at that. You're absolutely correct.
All right. We'll definitely try to keep that on our delegations' radar for that one, because I know that it has been a point of contention for residents in town, so we'll certainly want to keep that in front of them. Are there any questions or concerns from members of the committee?
Madam Chair, do you have, sorry, go ahead,
Do you have
John.
a question, Mr. Higgins?
No, go ahead, John.
Okay, Miley, was this included in the budget as well? Do we know this is coming, Justin, or
No.
is this, it's outside the budget?
It's outside the budget. Because it's a gift donation and it's because it's restricted specifically to police, fire, and highway, it's outside of the budget.
That was a very good question, Mr. Higgins. Thank you. Did anybody else have any other questions?
I do, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Knoll, what you got?
I was curious to know the recipients of this gift, I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit. If I recall correctly, the numbers each year has gone down from what $100,000 to like roughly half, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong in the figures, but I know the figures. I remember that the figures hasn't been the same, since when this gift started. But my question is, how were the recipients of this gift determined? Police, fire, highway.
Yeah. So this is in part a decision by BSU because those are generally the services they utilize the most. Obviously, fire, police, our roads, and collaboration with DPW, shared streets, and so forth. So that's how they determine it. That's where they feel like that they have the most impact in the town. So that was the parameters of their gift donation. For example, if you look at Howard Home, for example, they say it has to be used on Bridgewater residents. So that's what you can do as a gift donation. Since 2014, I actually have the data pulled up before me. This has been the standard amount since 2017. Previously before that, the figures did fluctuate, but they were lower actually. It was $50,000 and then went to 51,000, then 50,000. And then since 2017 has been $55,000.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question, Madam Chair, and
Sure.
Justin, thank you for the information. I guess the reason I was asking the question, I realized based on your response, there's some collaboration between BSU and these entities. I guess my thought process was, has there been any conversations to your knowledge, whether it be through town council, to maybe include the school district as part of this gift? Maybe this could be an avenue where the district can receive additional funding, particularly given that this is a higher ed institution that's right in our backyard. And then it's my understanding that there are a number of students who graduate from BR in the district as a whole, who are students at BSU. I have a sophomore that graduated from BR. Now he's a sophomore at BSU. So I guess that's just my thought process, and just wondering, has there been any conversations at all?
Yeah. This is actually a good point. I don't want to speak with a surety because I don't know with a surety, because obviously with the regional school district, their funds are different from ours. But I know there is collaboration with BSU and the Bridgewater Rainham district. I don't know if there's a donation in kind. I can get that information pretty quickly. I had a feeling there was, but I can't speak with a surety on it. So we will follow up on that. And for example, there have been conversations I know amongst myself with Mr. Clark about further collaboration on the town side in terms of internships and adding bandwidth to the town, to our town and opportunities for their students. At the same time, I know this question has been asked from the council to Mr. Powers, and I've actually asked him too in terms of collaborating with Mr. Clark. They are having conversations regarding their internship program as well, which they have supported a long time. So I know there's conversation about that. I have to double back to see if there's a monetary contribution, Rick. I have a feeling there is, but I can't speak with a surety tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And to your point, Ray, I actually do recall there was a slight increase in the gift from BSU. I believe that was actually during the pandemic years. In 2020, I believe it went up, and then it did start to slowly decline back to the close to the original amount that we started getting several years ago. So I know that that's certainly been rather consistent over time, just as Justin said. So it's stayed consistent, which I'm appreciative of them doing that. You know, they don't have to do it. It's one of those things where it's a state property. They can choose to or choose not to. We are deeply appreciative of them doing so. And
Thank you both. I second that as well. Thank you.
alrighty. Did anybody else have any other questions or concerns or comments? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Knoll. Do I hear a second?
Motion
Second,
Seconded by Mrs. Bassowitz. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. Now we will move on to item F on the agenda, additional items for discussion. I do not have any additional items for discussion this evening, and I don't know if anybody else does. But if you do, you may offer them up and we can have them on the next agenda for the next meeting.
I have a couple of questions. I'm brand new to this whole process. And
Sure, Mr. Higgins.
through UMJ and Justin, I've listened to you speak a couple of times, and I understand you're in a very difficult position. I look at the finances, I've tried to study them, and it's hard to figure out how the town is going to grow with the water issues and everything else. But as I go through the financials, I just look at them and I see one of the things that really concerns me, I'm a finance guy, is the amount of debt that we've agreed to take on, we're taking on, or that we're going to need to take on in the future. And so part of what I can't understand is how that's going to impact each of the taxpayers, because I know some of them are debt exclusion, some of them are included in there, but nowhere can I find information about how much more taxpayer is going to be billed or charged, or what their tax bills are going to look like, their water bills or sewer bills, say over the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm not sure how we're going to afford all this debt without continuing to cut government or continuing to cut parts of the government that you can. So I was very unsure of that without some kind of a debt schedule. And then my second point is I looked at the unfunded liabilities for all of the pensions and for the employee benefits. And again, it's another $44 million. And I've only got information through 2024, but I'm wondering how are we going to get rid of that, Justin? I mean, to come up with $44 million over the next period of time, I know actuaries do all this, but the first year we made additional payments and the unfunded liability actually went up. So I saw that, and that definitely raised some questions for me. And then my third point, and I'll be quiet after this, is I'm going through the finances, and we're already almost 3 months into the 2026 fiscal year, and we still don't have any figures for 2025 or 2026. And I'm wondering, is there a way that we could get more up-to-date information as a committee so that we can maybe be a little bit more proactive or see, exactly how we finished up 2025 before. And if we've got issues with 2026, we're already 20% into the year. And that kind of handicaps us to begin with, just from the start without having any information to go off of. So those are three kind of big points. Just as a newcomer, I'm hoping you can give me some guidance or how should we look at this as a committee?
MJ, do you mind if I just chime in and give some thoughts?
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, ultimately, we could even have this on a future agenda as well. It's
Absolutely.
usually what additional items for discussion is typically meant for. But yeah, Justin, definitely share.
I was just going to recommend that, if these are issues and, being on a finance committee, I'm sure that a multitude of you all have some of those questions and thoughts. I think it would be beneficial if we had this on, a future finance committee meeting, just coordinate with Lori and myself, and we're more than willing to walk through those, all those questions. For example, excluded debt or debt percentage, what does that look in terms of bond rating? There's so many things that we could discuss that obviously, we will want to be prepared for, and also give some more information to the committee. So that would be my recommendation. Formally just, asking that, lay out some of those questions so we're prepared. And this can be an informative discussion with the group. I think in terms of your, so I think those were the first two items. In relation to the third item, in terms of how did we close out the previous fiscal year, the town will soon have a free cash certification of funds. And that's in work part of the finance department has done to close our books, make sure they reconcile figures. I believe Ashley's on here, and if Ashley wants to chime in, she's doing it directly, but I know that I've done that work. That's information that, is public information, or willing to share that. This typically is around this time that a town or municipality, if they've done their process well, would get that free cash certification. So usually a finance department after June close and the beginning of July, and why you won't have it timely, and I won't make a commitment to do it timely beyond that, is you're closing out the fiscal year books. You have to make sure you're encumbering any funds for the following year. You're rolling in the budget for the following year to Munis. You're getting all of our departments up to purchase orders and so forth like that. So that does take some time. I know MJ can speak to that as well. She's done that. So there's typically some time process that a finance department needs to do that work. And generally the closeout of that year would be around this period, John.
Just for a little bit of additional info, it does take some time for the finance department to gather these figures together to get the numbers to DOR. Typically, treasurer collector's offices have to have them done at least at the earliest by September. The latest you can do it is usually the start of the fall, around the early part of October. Most towns try not to do it in that time frame. They try to get it done sooner rather than later, because to not have your free cash certified by the Commonwealth can delay the remainder of the process for that fiscal year. Case in point, if your certification of your free cash doesn't happen before December, you can't set your tax rate for the remainder of your fiscal year. So I've seen it happen just through experience of talking with different colleagues in the Collector Treasurers Association. You can have it happen where if your free cash numbers aren't certified by like Christmas, you are going to be in some serious trouble when you try to send out your real estate bills for the actual property taxes for third and fourth quarter. So it is something that finance departments do try to do. Oddly enough, the beginning of the fiscal year, everyone thinks it's quiet during the summer for town treasurer collector offices. They are not. It is super busy. And I know my previous bosses would be working completely through the day just on stuff closing out the fiscal year, on top of getting ready for the auditors to come in that the towns contract out on a regular basis. Because under Massachusetts general law, all towns and cities have to be audited by an independent outside auditor every year to make sure their processes are in good working order and that any deficiencies can be addressed for future improvement. And if they accept federal funds, they have to have an additional outside single audit done to remain compliant with any federal guidelines, should they have accepted any federal grants or monies that were sent out due to federal legislation, i.e. ARPA, or back during the Great Recession, the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. So that's definitely one of those things. So this time of year is actually very busy for the finance departments, and I know it's something that Justin and Laurie and the rest of the finance team can definitely fill us in on at some point. And Josh, if you can make a note of it just for our next meeting, that we can try to schedule having this this further conversation. I believe it was items about debt exclusion, OPEB liability, and overall funding of the budget and future budgets.
Okay.
I think I got everything right, John?
Yeah, it just wasn't the excluded debt, it's all the debt in general, because if you look
That's
at it with the water, sewer, and I know I'd listened to Justin down at the senior center and talk about the restrictions we have with growth in the town due to the water issue. So, I mean, how fast are we gonna be able to grow the water issue? And should we look at speeding, or could we look at speeding that process up so we could get back into a growth mode? And then what is everybody's water and sewer bill gonna look like?
Right. All right. So
MJ.
we'll add that to that part of that discussion then.
MJ, would it be beneficial, do you think, if we had members of the committee submit questions to me, general questions for general finance department, and then I can get those over to Lori and she can, you know, address specific questions that way she's not just coming in with a, you know, a general idea of what's to be expected.
Yep,
But-
I would strongly encourage that. So members, definitely send questions to Josh. That way we can give them to Laurie and the finance team and also to Justin. So those items can be addressed and answered in the meantime while we prepare for that session. And I think that would be the best thing to do. Just make sure you only send it to Josh, because if you copy any of the members, you will be violating the open meeting law, and we do not want to do that. So just send it straight to Josh. All right. If there are no other additional items for discussion, are there? Nope. Alrighty. Well, I guess we've now arrived at our, I guess the collectively most enjoyed part of the meeting time is adjournment of the meeting. But before we go, Josh, when would our next meeting be? I'm guessing it's going to be the 22nd.
Yeah, it depends on what gets recommended, but yeah,
Okay, cool.
I'd anticipate the 22nd.
All right. All
Madam
right.
Chair,
So we'll anticipate meeting hopefully on the 22nd of September.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Noel?
just an FYI, and for the group, I'm gonna be traveling that week. I'll be at a conference, so I won't be available that week.
Okay. Did anybody else have any conflicts of scheduling by chance? Okay. At some point, I do want to have a conversation as to whether or not Monday nights are still a good time for us to meet. Just because I know some folks' schedules do change from time to time, and I want to be sensitive to that potential need.
I will offer up that I am sitting as the VP of the Friends of the Library, and often we do meet on the first Monday night as well,
Mhm.
roughly an hour ahead. So I often have to pop out of that in order to make these. Unfortunately, the Tuesday night conflicts as well. So if there is a need or an interest, changing the night might not be a bad idea, but if it works for everyone else, I can work around it.
I know that there may be some changes for me as well in my future, so I'm gonna also try to anticipate that, but I won't know until I hear in the near term. That being said, I know that my rest of my week would certainly be open at some point. I know usually Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays work unless there's a council meeting, in which case I'm trying to attend those as much as possible. But that is certainly something we can converse about at our next meeting.
Certainly.
So, Josh, if you could add that to the agenda for the next meeting,
Sure.
and then we'll have a fuller discussion about it. I guess the only other thing I have before we do the adjournment of the meeting tonight is I'm very happy that we've been able to have a consistent quorum these last two meetings. We do have a full count of membership, correct, Josh?
No, we have one vacancy, which is a town council appointment.
Okay, so we still
And
have that one.
Debbie is, the town council clerk is aware of it and she's working with them.
Okay, cool. So hopefully we'll have a full count in the very near term. And I'm very much looking forward to it because I appreciate that everybody has been taking their time out of their day to join us and be participants in our active municipal government. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing all of you at our next meeting. So if somebody would like to entertain the motion for adjournment, we'll hear it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
Second.
to adjourn made by Mr. Lightford, seconded by Mr. Knoll. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek. I saw you, Derek. I didn't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Derek.
Aye.
Thank you. Rig,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting's adjourned.
All right. Thank you,
you,
everyone. We'll
everyone.
see you
All right.
next
Have a
time.
great week.
Have a
Good
nice
night,
night,
everyone.
Good night.
Good evening.